My name is Wayne. Today we're going to be talking about menthol cigarettes. Do you smoke them? Do you not? Well, if you like them, you better buy some now because it looks like the FDA may be set to ban them.
Hey, this is Robert, and I got some news for you about House and Senate bills going through our Tennessee local government. Heavy fines for protesters and leniency for those that hit protesters with their car.
And I'm Mike, and I'm going to close this out today on a good note. Fort Campbell may have some hope for that middle school that there was so much controversy about, but there's a catch. Today on Freethinkers, Episode 5.
Welcome to the Freethinkers of Clarksville, Episode 5. Michael, can you remind us, what is a freethinker?
A freethinker is somebody who takes an argument, no matter how they might seem, and evaluates it on their own merit. Cuts out all the bias, their own bias, and the bias of who might be given the argument, and evaluates it just for what it's worth.
And, Robert, what do we mean when we say that we're the Freethinkers of Clarksville?
Well, we try to keep our content sourced locally. So even if it's a large federal idea, state idea, local community, we're going to source all that comments from the threads in our local media productions, Clarksville Now, Leaf Chronicle, Clarksville Chat, anything related, so we're getting the voice of our local community.
Gotcha. So I found out that the U.S. government, through the FDA, is planning on banning menthol cigarettes along with all flavors of cigars. You will no longer, if these laws go, if these regulations go through, by the end of this year, next year, be able to purchase or manufacture menthol cigarettes or any flavored cigars. This is something that we had discussed, I'd seen on the Joe Padula show, which I participated in, and found some interesting comments in the comments section of the show. Just to provide a little context here, the aim is apparently to, according to the FDA, to cut down on the health effects of cigarettes, particularly in minority communities. Found out that apparently 85% of menthol brand cigarettes are smoked by black Americans, 47% Hispanic, 38% Asian, 29% white. Smokers choose menthol. And in the comments, while we were discussing that, had one of our listeners say, quote, "I smoke menthol. How about the government stay the hell out our choices?"
Ooh.
And, I assume, based on these numbers, we've got plenty of smokers still around in Clarksville. And somebody saying, look, this is going to personally affect me. I smoke menthol cigarettes. Michael, commenter, says the government needs to stay out of his business. He smokes menthols. What do you think of this comment?
Well, I have to, I think the commenter is taking it the wrong way. The government is trying to get everyone to stay out of their choices. If we look at it like this, any additives that we put in tobacco makes it more appealing, right? So the people who want to just smoke tobacco, you have that population.
Right.
But then you have people that really like the taste of menthol, but they don't really want to smoke the tobacco. They just want that menthol.
Okay.
Or they want that chocolate strawberry cheesecake cigarette that they were having. I don't know what all the different flavors that people have. But
Chocolate straw. I know they have chocolate. I don't know if they have strawberry. I think they might have strawberry cigars.
So the thing is, if you just ask people, okay, do you want to take a plant, light it on fire, and pull the smoke into your lungs and release it? I would say most people are going to say, nah, that doesn't sound very good. Now,
okay.
If you say, well, here is this mentholated strawberry cheesecake candy stick that you put on fire, and it tastes so good going down, tastes even better when you breathe it back out.
Okay.
Those people, they don't want the tobacco, right? So they're being forced. The government's saying, no, you're tricking those people into smoking smoking your plant. So they're not making the choice there. So the government is coming and protecting
people.
The people from
this commenter might never have smoked cigarettes.
If there wasn't,
or even if they hadn't, you're saying there's a section of people out there who smoke menthol cigarettes and perhaps even started smoking them because they were menthol, and they might not otherwise have become smokers. And by banning this,
we all don't smoke, weeds on the ground that we pick up, light on fire, and smoke. If there's something that is different about those cigarettes, and the government says, if you want to just take the plant, no additives, light it up, smoke it, your prerogative. They are not banning cigarettes at all. They're not banning cigars. Straight tobacco, good to go. They're just saying, if you want that other kick, you don't need to mix it with this. We're not going to let them sell their product to you just because you want those flavors.
All right. Robert, what do you think of that?
I think that Michael's wrong.
Okay.
I think it goes... Okay. We're obviously on a surge of freedoms within America that we haven't been on, right? We have functionally decided the war on drugs is a total failure, right? We need to get more people doing what they choose to do for themselves.
Right.
Legalizing marijuana, we're legalizing psychoactive mushrooms in certain parts of the American landscape in their cultures. I don't see why we're now moving towards more stipulations on already legalized things, and we can't focus on legalizing our already failed illegal products. Like, what? It seems like a step backwards.
Perhaps I would say to those those interested in this, they're saying, look, cigarettes are bad for you, and I think pretty much everybody agrees cigarettes are bad for your health.
Sure.
They're not banning cigarettes entirely, as Michael's pointed out. Mm-hmm. They're not banning tobacco. They're just banning a particular thing here, a particular flavor.
Sure.
And leaving open. Yeah, it's like you like light beer. Well, too bad. You can't have light beer anymore. You can just have regular beer.
Then viewers, I want to let you know, within our group, I've started to get away from the term slippery slope and started to use the word if you give a mouse a cookie. Okay, so if you give the government this cookie, then why wouldn't we? I think the bigger question is why don't we have more flavors of tobacco for consumers if that's their choice? If they do have chocolate, raspberry, truffle cigarettes, and that's what you choose to buy, regardless of the additive, we should be able to. We need to stop letting the government control our substances and let people control their substances.
No, that's absolutely wrong. We know why we don't have a wider variety of flavors is simply because people know that there's lines that you don't cross.
Oh.
So you don't take, Trix or Lucky Charms marshmallows, lace them with some sort of legalized drug, and then sell those. Because we know that that's crossing a line. Those are things that kids and people, they want to eat those, and they're not going to distinguish between the bad stuff and the good stuff. So we know there's lines that we don't cross. Everyone recognizes it. They probably don't have really, really great flavors, or they don't sell weed milkshakes because they know that that's a line that we don't cross. We recognize it as bad even before we do it, right? So they don't do it because they don't want to get the government to come in and go, you guys know that was bad, so now we have reason. So they don't want to give the government that cookie so they can start taking it away. So maybe you're right about the government's going to take one thing, and we don't have those other flavors because people already knew that if they started doing that, the government would step in. But it's the same thing with the menthol and the other flavors. Those are just marketing.
I want to push another aspect of this, which is brought out by the news articles and such, and the justification for this ban. Why ban menthol cigarettes and not simply ban all cigarettes if your goal is to help people's health? The justification they give is that 85% of black smokers choose to smoke menthols rather than unflavored cigarettes. I haven't revealed, and I actually don't know the race of the commenter that made that comment saying I smoke menthols, stay out of my business. What do you think of the idea that this is targeted towards a particular race, that black smokers prefer these, and therefore to protect not people in general, but black people in particular, and other minorities, as pointed out. We're going to protect them more by banning this flavor.
Well, if we recognize that advertisers have spent significant amount of time developing a desire for those flavors within those communities, the government is just saying we should have stepped in a while ago before it got as bad as it is, but it's better to act now than to never act, even though we should have acted earlier before your communities were inundated with this product.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so we should have the government step in and stop making brandy, all right? Because black people intuitively more smoke a brand, drink brandies, but because it's
they're basing a law. I don't want to be flippant about this, but they're basing a law off of a regulation off of racial stereotype, which apparently is true according to their statistics. But this is, you're right. You could easily be, and I think some folks are offended by this. It's like say, well, we want to reduce obesity in the black community, so we're going to ban grape soda, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be, because all of the black people, that's what they drink. Why not ban sodas altogether, right? And help everybody. This is targeted by their own efforts here, and it's a little unnerving to some people, including this particular commenter, I think. So why are you targeting me?
okay.
Well, let us know in the comments what you think. If you smoke menthols, if you don't smoke them, if you think that the government ought to ban all cigarettes, or let us flavor our cigarettes with whatever flavors we want. This chocolate strawberry cheesecake cigarette sounds like something.
I mean,
if I had to have a cigarette, I guess
I would never
that.
Never smoked. Don't know that I would ever want to smoke, but someone said, "Here, try this chocolate strawberry cheesecake
Let us
cigarette."
know what flavors
I'd give it a shot.
Let us know what flavors would tempt you in the comments.
Okay, audience, I've got quite a topic for you today. There's House Bill 513 and Senate Bill 843 coming into our state legislators, right? Now, what these bills do is kind of in response to the last, I would say, 2 years we've had. A lot of protests, depending on what they are, what the topics were. But Tennessee says it's had enough of people blocking the roads for these protests, okay? Republican-led bills in both legislators, the House and the Senate, are coming up hard punishments for people who block and obstruct traffic because they're protesters.
Okay.
Felony charges, high fines. There's an additional add in there that if protesters in the presence of blocking or even in protest at all commit a crime, there's no more misdemeanor charges. You get a felony charge.
So participating in a riot is a felony.
Any action of property damage, physical damage towards another person is a.
Because I know right now, just participating in a riot's a misdemeanor. Promoting a riot is a felony. So okay.
So there's a little nuanced caveat in this bill also that gives a normal citizen that becomes blocked by someone, taking over the thoroughfare, the street, as long as they try at all their best. Now, this brings up a whole host of topics. As long as they try their best not to purposefully hit somebody with their car, if they end up hitting them, immunity from the law. Okay? That's what the bills are trying to pass through. So, in reading through the Leaf Chronicle on the Facebook page, we found a comment.
Okay.
The most relevant. And here's the comment. Only the right has killed people with their cars. When we're talking about the right-leaning political groups, right? This applies only to them. The right blocks streets also, but the left is not a murderous bunch and doesn't condone murder by car as in Charlottesville. We're all familiar with Charlottesville. This makes blocking a street punishable by death by any right-leaning person, just clarifying, who feels like it. It's open season on BLM, Black Lives Matter, with your car, righties. Wayne.
Yeah.
How are you going to take that comment?
Well, let me think about this here. You say that the law will say that if you accidentally hit someone who is blocking the road for the purpose of a protest or a riot, I suppose. If you accidentally hit them, that you're not going to be liable for anything. I think that's already the case, right? If you accidentally hit somebody, it's an accident.
I think it opens it up a little bit more. It's not even accidentally. If they are blocking your free travel and you continue to push the gas, and you're not, I think it gives you immunity as long as you're not veering towards them.
Right. It's not on purpose. It's an accident. I've read the law.
Yeah. If this is my right of way and you're in front of it.
I'm exercising due care. Protester jumps out in front of me with a sign says, "Save the whales." Splat.
Splat.
Okay. I'm not going to be held liable because I shouldn't have a duty to look out for people blocking a highway. All right. This commenter says, look, only people of a right-wing persuasion have ever hit people with their cars during protests. I don't know that that's true, but let's assume that that's what they think, because why would they write it if they didn't? All right. I'll take the side of the commenter here.
Okay.
He's saying, look, this, is in response to the incident you mentioned, Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlottesville. Where's that at? Virginia. Okay. Charlottesville, I know there was a story where during a protest somebody hit somebody with a car. And I've seen a few other stories like that. And they're suggesting that this will embolden people to and he says that the right-wing people in their protests occasionally block highways too, but that the left never injures them with their cars. Let's take that as true. He's saying this will embolden people. I assume, he says, open season, that somebody will purposefully hit a protester or protesters with their car, drive their car through a bunch of people demonstrating on a highway or something, and perhaps in bad faith claim, I was trying to avoid them, but they were in the way. I can see that, right? Because not a lot of people will take the time to go read the actual bills, read the actual law. Most people don't sit around clicking through to read, Senate bills and such. Yeah, I could absolutely see somebody, seeing a headline that says it's okay to hit protesters with my car now, and I won't be liable. See a bunch of protesters in the road, I'm going to cruise on through. And if somebody jumps in my way, hey, ain't my fault. I can absolutely see what the commenter's worried about.
Mike.
I think that this is a little bit of fear-mongering. All right? I believe the commenter is trying to set up an idea that if people peacefully protest, that they're going to be at risk of being hit from people that are taking this as open season. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think anybody will take it like that. Mm-hmm. If what this law is trying to do is trying to make the roads safer for everyone, it is saying that we've already have established rules, the way people are supposed to behave on the rules, and we're just going to make sure that those are enforced, and you don't have to take extra time to make sure that you're being extra careful on highways when things that you're already doing are good enough.
So you're seeing it from the perspective of the protester who hears about this law and says, maybe I won't block a highway as a form of protest because there might be people out there driving cars and they're no longer going to be fearful that they'll be in trouble if they hit me.
Exactly. So it's not that anyone is going to be aiming for protesters or taking less care around protesters. It's just saying that they know that right now people come up to protesters. They don't know what's going to happen. They're scared. They're going to just try and stay in their car. They're going to stop. It's going to slow down traffic. It's going to be bad for everybody because the driver doesn't know if they're protected. The state is just coming in and saying, listen, as long as you're doing what we've told you before that you're already supposed to be doing, as long as you keep doing that, whatever happens, you're going to be protected. So there's not going to have that safety gap. So the protester is just going to be like, I'm not going to risk it.
So does the comment though kind of lead to the idea that is it drawing a conclusion that right-leaning members of the community, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that he is, but are they more violent towards left-minded protests? I mean, that he's made that declarative statement.
He says that only righties,
right-leaning political members would take this.
Have used their cars to hit people.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea whether that's true. I suspect it's probably not. But in popular culture, in the news media, I've only ever seen news stories of left-wing protesters and rioters blocking highways. I've never seen a story saying a bunch of right-wingers blocked a highway, and I've never seen a story where, person plows through a crowd of Republicans, rioting on the streets.
Sure.
Well, if they're Republicans, if they're gathered and rioting on the street, they're all probably armed too. So that is, if someone's trying to drive them down, they're not going to make it.
Well, everyone, please put your comments in. Let us know what you think about this House and Senate bill. This is pretty big news, and I think there's a lot to be discussed here.
So, like a cool, crisp, refreshing puff on a menthol cigarette, I'm going to slow things down and talk about something nice and local and pleasant.
Okay.
All right. Last Friday, the Department of Defense released a statement that's good news for our Fort Campbell community. Money is going to become available for projects that have been on hold. Now, the problem is, the little catch is, where do you think that money is coming from? It is going to be canceled projects on our border wall defenses.
Oh.
So as you can imagine, some commenters in our local area are not as happy about the idea of a brand new school as others are.
Okay.
Right? So, in particular, this individual has this to say. So, we need to forget about having secure borders. I would be surprised if military people who understand military concepts would be excited about allowing our nation's border to remain unsecure for a temporary benefit. So let's talk about that. First of all, let's talk about if new schools are temporary benefits, and if we think that securing our border is more important in ensuring our education of our local children. Robert?
Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So the middle school, I think I remember this now. I remember that the middle school wasn't going to get built because the money got directed to the border wall. So now we're in the reverse. The border wall construction is being canceled. That opened up the funds for the middle school.
They did not go into detail about why that funding was being canceled at the border projects, but we can guess.
Sure. Okay. So the commenter is saying that in that community, especially in the military community, that if they were to take it to a vote on their behalf, they would all forego the new middle school for a secured border.
That seems to be the implication.
Okay. So I would disagree with that commenter. I think that even though there could be some push, that is too large scale of a comment to make, that the middle school being constructed on Fort Campbell for those families, for their children, to alleviate overpacked schools. Even I don't know what the current situation for education on Fort Campbell is, but if it's anything mirrored like in Clarksville, even having the remote learning, even having kids at home, people want to make sure that their kids aren't going to dilapidated old buildings. There was a need for it. It was pushed through a budget. Fort Campbell was picked for some reason, right? Whether it was infrastructure of the current building, growth of the population on Fort Campbell. There's a need for that, and that takes precedent. That should take precedent. That affects them locally.
All right. Wayne, Robert thinks that the commenter may be a little misguided, but I know that. Can you see where the commenter is coming from, how he's building his argument? That
I'll take the position of the commenter. I'll tell you what he or she may be thinking based on what I know of these stories. So my recollection is that during the last 4 years, they were working on the border wall and border security, and that when Congress wouldn't pass the funding for it, they diverted some military funding towards these projects, handling construction of the wall and border security. It sounds like that this is being portrayed as we're taking away funding for border security, and that frees it back up to work on some of these projects, such as either providing, I suppose, a new school or renovating the school for Fort Campbell. My impression is that this is a school for the children of military folks on Fort Campbell to go to. Does anyone know whether it's a new school they're going to build or renovate a school? What's the
impression I got from the article that it was new school to be built. In the plan, the funding got diverted. Now that funding is back, and it could potentially be moving forward with that.
I can see the comment you're coming at it from this angle. Right now, all appearances are that the border is in crisis. We have seen in the media, the pictures of children being housed in all kinds of different circumstances, what we used to call cages, what we now call rooms with, wire walls, things like that. I've heard about, there was some controversy I heard about where they were taking people that were crossing the border illegally and housing them temporarily in hotels at great expense to the taxpayer. It's kind of catch-22 for the government. If we put them in cages, we get criticized for being too hard on them. If we put them in hotels, we get criticized for, putting them up in luxury. But whatever's going on down there is a crisis.
Sure.
Right? They've sent Kamala Harris down to handle it. I'm sure she's going to do a great job, I hope. But if they take funding away from handling that problem and put it toward, will we say that we're in an education crisis here on Fort Campbell? Are the children not getting the funding they need to be educated? Perhaps. I haven't heard that. And I assume this commenter's thinking along those lines. Let's keep the money where the priorities are.
Wayne, I think you've you're bundling things together, I think.
Yeah.
I think that this commenter is directly, the commenter is directly relating the idea that, because his comment was that it was unsecured border. I don't think if the money was being leveraged to build the middle school or help with the refugee population or the incoming immigrant population to get them into housing, that'd be one thing. But I think the commenter is saying that if the money is being taken from the wall construction to build this, then that is not what he thinks it should be done.
Well, I think I'm taking the commenter that way. If we had a wall that would stop refugees from coming from other countries and burdening our systems down there, then we could afford to build schools and things like that. Once we and that's what the whole idea behind securing the border was.
Well, I think it reminds me of a throwback to an episode that we had about the homelessness question, in which I did defend that, and it does seem to be it seems to hearken me back to that argument again.
Yeah.
Immigration and border security pull so much oxygen out of the room and such a waste of money that we never take care of the things that we need to take care of here at home, which is school, infrastructure, buildings and codes, all these things that need to be done here. We just keep putting them off until we have a real crisis. We shouldn't be so reactive to our own demands here in our local communities because we keep being told that there's this crisis down here and funneling all that.
Why spend money on an infrastructure project to build a wall and border security facilities when we could be using that money to educate our children better here at home? I can understand that perspective.
Okay.
So it comes down to it. Is the educational needs of our kids here in Fort Campbell area and Clarksville more important than the boost in security that we would all have by sending that money back to help construct the border wall? Let me know in the comments.
Absolutely. You can either have a bird in the hand or two in the bush? Is that what it is? Build the school now and see the gains from it, or just keep throwing that money at something that could or could not ever be completed. Okay, good conversation today, fellas. I really appreciate it. Everyone out there in the comments, thank you for all of your input. Keep that conversation going. We really enjoy everything that you've given us. If you want to give us some more, there's no doubt that tons of our local community have a lot to comment about very important issues. If you want to draw our attention to them so that we don't have to scurry around in the threads of comments that we don't particularly know too much about, make sure to use that hashtag you see on the screen, hashtag FTOC. That will allow us to guide right to what you think is important. And who knows, maybe it'll be on the show, the next show.
And we keep the names and information about the comments that we pull for this show confidential. But if it is your comment and you want to give us more feedback on it, please feel free to go to the Freethinkers of Clarksville Facebook page. Drop us a comment, send us a private message. You could even be featured as a guest on our show if you wanted. Just send us a message if you'd like to participate at any level.
All right. For Wayne, Robert, I'm Mike. This is episode 5 of the Freethinkers of Clarksville. Catch you next time.